Welcome, welcome. I hope you had a good lunch. I'm really excited to have you on stage. Everybody has been talking about live stream, of course. There's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's Periscope, there's even Twitch, we could say. But YouNow has been something special, building something pretty big, quietly, because it's probably not people in this audience using YouNow. So maybe people are not really familiar, I think, with YouNow. Maybe you can describe it in your own words.
Sure. So thank you for having me, Romain. You know, when people think about live streaming, they think about live from the history of live, which is news event, sports, and our approach to live is very much participatory. It's a two-way interaction between the audience and the broadcaster, between the audience and themselves. We like to call it, it's a one-to-many that feels like one-to-one. And we are focused on engineering a product that allows the audience to participate not just through chat, but through guest broadcasting, through gifting, and through many other methods so that folks are collaborating in real time to create media and to create an experience. And so 70% of our users actually interact on the screen.
Okay, and what you haven't been saying is that it's mostly teenagers?
So it's very...
What's the age range? The basic user is between 12 and...
70% of our users are under 24. And it's no surprise in the sense that, you know, youth has always been leading the way in adapting new technologies. They also happen to have a lot more time than adults.
Yeah.
And
have
they
anything
can
to do, basically.
show up in this appointment viewing.
So I have some numbers as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but YouNow represents around 150,000 unique streams per day.
Yes.
50 minutes per day on average for each session.
Yep.
And you've raised around $30 million. But even more interesting, there have been some stars popping up on YouNow because of this huge community. The best ones of them are now like becoming bigger than the platform itself. Could you tell us about this?
Sure. I mean, when you have 150,000 broadcasts each day, even if 1/10% of that is great content, content starts to develop and flows to the top. And part of the product design is that the community is crowdsourcing the best content in real time. So just like on Reddit, you're voting up and down news stories, on YouNow, you are voting the best content to the top to be discovered. So we're delighted to see you know, Hollywood talent agencies, MCNs, managers, major record labels signing up talent off YouNow on a regular basis.
Yeah, and the very specific part about YouNow is that it's very interactive. And how does it work really, like when you use YouNow as a viewer, as a streamer, like what's the kind of interaction you can expect?
Sure. We can show a little demo.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So why don't we pull this onto the screen?
So your iPhone is connected to the screen.
And let's hope that we have some audio here as well. I'll go to this young lady.
Haley Knox.
Haley Knox, yeah, so actually she's recently got signed up by S-Curve Record BMG. Let's say hello to her.
So you're sending her a message.
And you know what, let's have her dedicate a song to someone. Who in the audience has a birthday today or this week? Anyone? Yes, sir. What's your name? Brian, okay, perfect. Let's tell her my buddy Brian has a birthday.
So how many people are watching this right now?
So right now there's 88 folks watching her concurrently.
Oh, hello Brian. Hello Brian. Hello, hello. I could sing you a little happy birthday. This goes to Brian. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Brian. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, happy birthday, Brian.
And people are
Here's a little
saying
song. This goes
hi.
out to Brian.
And you know what? I'm going to tip her as well. So we have a virtual economy here at work. I can buy into this virtual economy. Maybe we can lower the volume a little bit of the singer there. And then use it in order to help make the person trend. She is on the musicians hashtag. All these other folks are on the musicians hashtag. The more the audience votes for them, the more they trend. And of course, there are multiple categories, hundreds of categories with hundreds of broadcasters on each category moving up and down the charts.
Okay, cool. Maybe let's talk about tips because you brought it up. So you can tip people, you can buy virtual goods. I've looked earlier today. Right now, YouNow is number 77 in the top grossing charts in the App Store for in-app purchases. Where does the money go?
Sure. So it is a classic freemium product where all the interactions are free, but for those users who want higher status, want to distinguish themselves, want to get themselves onto the screen and interact better, they can buy into this virtual economy and use it in order to communicate better, help get the broadcaster trend, send messages that are super messages.
Yeah, the kind of messages you use.
The kind of messages I was just using to get her attention. And if you are a YouNow partner, and today we have about 1,500 YouNow partners, just like YouTube partners, content creators are earning, then you get the lion's share of the revenue that's being spent on you on virtual.
Some teenagers are getting a living on YouNow, really.
That's right, and as a matter of fact, I would love to...
The top 10 people, like how much are they earning on the platform right now?
I would say low 5 figures per month.
Okay, cool.
And these are very talented folks. You know, singers, dancers, comedians, you know, talk show hosts. Since we have the guest broadcasting, we're seeing a lot of talk shows being developed on the platform.
And you've got some stories of some users that have been like dedicating their time on the platform?
The nicest stories is when folks come up to us and tell us that they were able to quit their job and do this full time, that they're now performing basically from their bedrooms and are able to pursue a career in the performance arts. You know, it's a two-sided market. Just like Uber drivers can now make a living, or folks can sell on Etsy, folks can perform for a living, and you know, it's rewarding to hear.
Yeah, and I've been watching YouNow streams for the past week, like every day, and it's amazing the kind of creativity that you can find on the platform. A lot of singers, a lot of musicians, some give advice to other people, a lot of comedians as well. How come is it so creative compared to other platforms like Periscope that is going to be more like live news or stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's a good observation in the sense that it's very much personality driven and character driven.
The camera is looking at the person.
Right, so you know, you mentioned Periscope and other services. The camera by default is pointing out. Their tagline is, watch the world from my eyes, versus our camera that's pointing in, more about the interactivity. And really this concept of participation by the audience.
And do you do any kind of curation? Are you trying to like encourage this kind of creativity on the platform? Or is it something that existing users have been doing without your help? So
there's very limited curation. The audience is curating by giving thumbs up. And they can give multiple thumbs up. So if you're really excited about somebody, you can really push them up and get them up in the charts to get them discovered. And you can pay more to give them even more thumbs up.
All right. And one thing I've noticed as well is that it's pretty big on, I would say, many teens on this platform that they don't have an audience around them. They've been looking at new ways to find people with whom they could talk to, and all this part about subcultures and trying to like give a voice to these teenagers that maybe feel frustrated because they've been growing up in a small town or something like that. Is that something important as well?
So the thing that we hear from the users is that it's a community,
Yeah.
and that they are supporting each other, they're meeting each other. There is literally every week another meetup that they organize around the country so they can meet in person. And the number one feedback is we go to YouNow in order to meet new friends and make new friends. I think there are social networks that are built around your existing friends, like Facebook. And here we have a case of a social network that, by definition, because you are going to perform in a public space, you're actually meeting strangers. And the magic is that you're becoming close to these strangers, you're starting to communicate with them. And so there's definitely an element of a support group. And if I may play just a quick video.
Yeah, sure.
There's this gentleman here who
I'm Twisted. I'm a broadcaster on YouNow. I started with YouNow back in January. Before that, I had a problem talking to people, and the reason being was I suffer from PTSD as a military veteran. Through YouNow and the availability of being able to talk to people constantly through the live streaming.
So I'm not going to continue, but you get the idea of
Yeah.
what a wonderful, thing it is for this gentleman who was able to meet people. And here's another example. These are folks that just came up to us. This happened in VidCon. This woman was able to quit her job and start a new career.
Hi, YouNow people. My name is Brittany J. Smith. I have been actively YouNowing for about 5.5 months now, and I just am about to hit 26,000 fans on YouNow. YouNow has completely changed my life. Before YouNow, I was actually serving tables, extremely aimless. I had been signed to music management for a couple years, but absolutely hated the experience, and I wanted to quit on music altogether. And my friend Brett Morgan actually introduced me to the website, and it completely changed my life. Now, 5 months later, I've been able to quit serving tables, and I am now working for YouNow full-time, getting to broadcast, do what I love to do, and it's completely changed my life. So, YouNow, you my bae forever.
So would you say YouNow is an expression platform more than a live streaming platform?
I would say that it is a cross between a social network and an entertainment network, and definitely a global platform for self-expression is a nice umbrella way to frame it.
Okay, and I have one big concern though about YouNow. Because these teenagers, they have all this time on their hands. When they're going to grow up and go to college or move to a job and something like that, they're not going to be able to tune on YouNow every day. So as your users are getting older, do you think a brand new generation of teenagers are going to embrace the platform in 5 years, for example?
So I think if we look at the gaming market, so to speak, or demographic, a lot of young people are focused on games, and that's something that they grow up with. This is a new kind of behavior, a new kind of interaction, new kind of hobby and experience. And we certainly see, we've been around for 5 years, and we see folks who have been broadcasting for 5 years. So it's not just for young people, and let's remember we have over 100 million user sessions a month. 30% of them are over 25. So there's, millions of adults on the service as well.
So you think your users are going to get older and still use YouNow?
I think that young people are less inhibited. They have more time to experiment. They are, naturally attracted to new interactive experiences and to new social experiences. But I do think that, just like it took grandma 7 years to search for something on YouTube, and now she, looks for how to grow these certain flowers in the garden. In a few years, we're going to see, grandmas broadcasting live and interacting live, and this is not going anywhere. There's just going to be more and more of it in general.
Okay, cool. Let's take a step back and talk about the competition for a minute. Obviously, you've been doing YouNow since 2011, so you've been around for a long time. You've seen everything about live streaming already. So what do you think about the new platforms, Periscope, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Meerkat? Yeah, let's not forget about Meerkat.
Yep. I think it's important to note that there were a bunch of live platforms, as you mentioned the other day, before mobile, on the web, and we don't hear about them. Mobile and social enabled live to actually work. The appointment viewing and being there live, you can do that only if your phone is with you everywhere and you don't have to be by your desktop. And so, and then social allowed for personal distribution and getting the word out that you're actually live right now. So those two things that really came together in around 2010, 2011 enabled this industry to flourish. And we have a unique take on it, which is a gamified take, which is an entertainment-focused take. You know, we see other takes, ones that are more utilitarian, and you know, ones that are more maybe appealing to adults or are focused on a certain niche, like Twitch on gaming. You know, there were 3 TV networks back in the 50s and 60s, and today there are hundreds. And we expect the live space to develop that way as well.
So you think there's going to be room for everyone, basically?
I think it's a, you know, from a historical perspective, what's going on here is we started with text and then images and then video and then real-time text and real-time images, and now we have real-time video, and it's just a better simulation of a social experience, more immersive, more immediate, gets the dopamine going faster. And you know, we're probably a few years away from the next step of that, which is virtual reality, where the simulation and the immersion is even greater. And you know, this happens to be where the technology is today, and the culture is demanding it.
Cool. So let's talk about the very early days of the company. In 2011, you weren't on this stage, but the same TechCrunch Disrupt kind of stage in San Francisco, in the startup battlefield. So the battlefield is starting later this afternoon here. How do you remember this moment?
We launched the company in September 2011 as part of the TechCrunch Disrupt Battlefield, and Roman asked me to show you the video of me making a fool of myself on stage. So here we have a quick going back to 2011. Tonight that I will sing. So here it goes.
The pixelated video, I would say.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. If we can lower the volume. So we didn't have a lot of broadcasters, and I couldn't show broadcasters because they didn't exist. So I broadcasted on the stage. I asked one of the judges to film me, and that was that.
and since then, it's been a long road, I would say. What was the most difficult moment for you? Because you haven't built something as big as YouNow in like overnight.
Sure. So, it's a chicken or the egg. So in the beginning, it was really important for us to be on 24/7 and to have multi-channels working 24/7, and we put a lot of focus on achieving that. Once that was there, it was very clear that the novelty of live broadcasting from a phone is not what's going to carry the day. What's going to carry the day is magical experiences for users, and you know, our angle of participation is what set the tone, and developing features to that extent, which we continue to do all the time. And continue to innovate all the time. It's very you know, demanding audience that we have, and they are drawn to many different things, and so continuing to innovate all the time and coming up with great new features that are going to delight our audience, I would say, is the number one.
We only have a minute left. Maybe you could tell us about something new coming up, for example, the kind of innovation that you want to bring to
Sure. So, the live experience is a really exciting one, and we are looking for ways to allow the audience to interact and participate all the time. And one of the things that we are working on allows the audience to capture moments off the live broadcasts in real time. So we're really excited about that.
Sharing clips of what has been happening on
Yep.
2-hour live stream, for example.
Right.
All right, thank you very much. We're out of time, but thank you.
Great. Thank you, Romain.